And we are live again. So, welcome everyone to the Grafana Campfire Community Call for the month of May. My name is Usman Ahmed, and in this call, we are actually discussing something very fun topic, which is right now popular almost in every space or in every corner of the world or even galaxy, is about AI. And we will focus on the two core parts or two main parts of like where to use AI, when to use AI, where it is used, and for example, is it used in hiring? And if it is used in hiring, then is it using in a good way or a bad way? And second, we will also touch some ground on Grafana MCP server, which is something very new but very exciting. So before we start, I would like to introduce our list of guests and the seasonals today. So first, I will start with David. So David, can you please give your intro?
Sure, I'm David. I run the Grafana team, so I work together with Matt, who's also on this call, and Sarah. Matt, do you want to go next?
I'd love to, yes. My name's Matt Ryer. I'm a senior principal engineer. I like building things. We're building things with AI, and we are building AI tools and stuff. So I'm very much in the sort of AI world in the galaxy, part of the galaxy of the AI. Ben Sully's also here, aren't you, Ben?
Hello, I am here. Yes.
Another Brit. Yes.
Another Brit. Two Brits. 30%. Yes, I am also on the AI team. I've been on the machine learning team for about 4 years at Grafana, and now we're kind of renaming a little bit, jump on the bandwagon of AI. So we're the AI team now as well, working with Matt and Cyril quite closely on AI-related tooling, which is super interesting. Yeah, specifically MCP servers, which we'll come to later on in the call. Who wants to go next? Cyril?
I can go next. Hello, I'm Cyril. So I work with Matt and Ben on AI too, and yeah, it's been a while that I'm at Grafana. Sarah, I think you're the last one.
Sure. I'm Sarah. I'm a staff software engineer on the data sources team in Grafana. Yeah, that's about it.
You make it sound bad. It's great what you do, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Assuming you're still the one doing it and you haven't outsourced it to an AI.
Yeah, well, no way to know.
But Sarah, we saw each other this month already. What happened?
We went to GrafanaCon, which was pretty
Exactly.
cool. And there was lots of AI discussed there during the keynote.
That's
Somebody
true.
wants to talk about it.
Well, it was such a great conference. I don't know if people at home have actually had a chance to make it to a GrafanaCon, but you really should. It's so much fun. Like, there shouldn't be that much fun, I don't think. But yeah, we have a great time. And yeah, there was a lot of AI stuff, and the reaction it gets is surprisingly very positive. I felt like we're in a post kind of AI now with all the hype. We've had enough of this. But I think people can kind of start to see where the good applications of this stuff is. Like, they can see like, yeah, this makes sense. So yeah, it did get a great reaction.
I mean, the conference also was helped by you hosting it. Matt,
thanks,
I gotta
mate.
say,
I was
yeah, we
fishing
got
for
some. I reviewed some feedback, and your name was mentioned a few times.
What, in positive
entertaining.
feedback?
Yeah, positive.
Oh, wow.
And then
That's surprising.
yes, no, but also Cyril. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I did nothing. I do want to know what was the best joke you made, Matt? Which one worked the best?
The one that got the biggest laugh, I'm not happy with. But I'll tell you what it was, if you like. Basically, what happened was, because we're doing Q&A all the time, so people start trolling me now, like, because I'm hosting it, and they're just sort of trolling me as jokes. They know that I can see the Slido on the iPad, and I'm asking like the panelists and stuff, trying to be all professional. And meanwhile, they're just trolling me with fake names and all sorts of stuff, and silly questions and things. And then I read out one of the questions that was also contained a joke, and it got a big laugh. It was like a better joke than I'd written. Do you know what I mean? But then I was annoyed that they got the laugh, but they could just do that sat in the audience, whereas I have to stand on stage and hold my stomach in for 2 hours at a time, two full days actually. But and explaining that did get a laugh, but obviously it's self-deprecating, isn't it? Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good.
It's fun.
So I'm so curious, or for the people who are watching this year, like what did we present on the AI side at Grafana Con?
Well, we did launch the assistant, right, Cyril?
Yeah, so we launched the assistant during the keynote. That was a lot of fun, and we kind of also talked a lot about other part of our effort in AI. We talked about MCP servers. Well, I think I don't know if it's S, like is it multiple MCP servers? Ben, is it just one or?
There are many that exist. We only have one. Actually, I think we probably do have multiple. I think the K6 team have one.
Yeah. So we talked about MCP. Yas did a very good demo on how to use MCP, Grafana MCP server with Cursor, I think it was. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think
there's a scattering of AI features around Grafana where, because we took this approach where we're not just going to do it for the sake of it. We are going to wait a bit and we're going to see where we can really make a difference. The flame graph explainer stands out as one example that I think is great. This is because flame graphs, you have to learn how to read flame graphs in a profile. You really have to sort of study it a bit and figure out what's going on. It's a perfect use case to have an LLM. What they do is they generate like a mini text-based version of the flame graph. So it's just text. Give that to an LLM and ask it to summarize it better, or in English, or any language probably. And it does it. And it's a great use case for it because it's kind of just translating text and stuff, which is very strong at doing. And I think, so there's like there's like cases like that are just great.
I mean, for me, when I was watching the keynotes where you and Cyril, Matt and Cyril were showing this integration of AI in the Grafana, what hit me really or was fascinating was that once the dashboard were created, it also contains the description. This is something which looks very minor, or you may say like you can ignore it, but this is something everyone misses it because description actually is very helpful to understand what this dashboard means, because AI can generate you a lot of text and details, but with that, it can also save it in a Grafana dashboard. So not only you're just viewing your dashboard about some metrics or logs or traces, but you have the full detail with full definition, like what this is about and so on. So that was really an exciting feature for me that we can do this in Grafana very easily.
Yeah, it doesn't mind doing like the grunt work or like lots of leg work that you would otherwise have to do, and sometimes you skip it. And I find the same in coding. Like when I first started using AI-assisted tools, I sort of noticed that it was very good at just the sort of boilerplate repetitive stuff. Like if I was trying to write a unit test that contained examples and things like this, it was kind of great at doing those sorts of tasks. And I could be more thorough, whereas at other times I might have skipped over some things because, just to save a bit of time or whatever. You get to cover more bases, so yeah, it's nice. It does more of that legwork. It doesn't mind, doesn't complain yet.
Are you saying you also used AI coding tools to build the AI assistant?
Yeah, this is it. It's kind of like already AI building itself a bit, but we're definitely guiding it. Like I feel like still you have to be the person who knows what you're doing, and you're still taming this thing. It's not like it's just telling you how to do it, and maybe that will come. But at the moment, you still have to do all the engineering. It's just doing the coding for you.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, Cyril, you were trying to evangelize a lot of this in the company, right?
Yeah, I did. I guess I wasn't the only one, so I don't think it was very difficult though to advocate about this in the company, but because it was definitively game changer in my opinion for the reason that Matt just explained. Like boilerplate code is definitely something that can slow you down or writing tests. Yeah, and it really started to be very interesting with Cursor, I guess. When it's like started to have a great integration. I think there's other example, not just Cursor. To be fair, I think Z is another example. Maybe Ben, you're using Z, or are you on Cursor?
Yeah, I'm using Z at the minute. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So those.
Vim people use that, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the integration did a big change, and so we started advocating in the company to use it because we saw a change in productivity. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about having the tool in the right place as well, so that you aren't going out to ChatGPT in a separate place to go and you have that disconnected thing. The fact that Cursor shows you a diff as part of the conversation, it's like these are the changes I'm suggesting, and there's quite a big inspiration for the Grafana incident itself, because we want that same feedback loop, like as it's doing
Grafana
things.
assistant.
Yeah, what did I say?
Incident.
It keeps happening to me for some reason. Usman's
What was the inspiration for incident?
getting things wrong, like I just did, and then we thought we need a tool to manage this. Sorry. When I recorded the video, we have a demo video and a blog for Grafana Assistant. I kept doing that same mistake, and it's just it's one of those things. I've no idea why.
Yeah.
But anyway, we took inspiration from those tightly integrated tools for the assistant. And if you look at the demo, you can just Google it, or DuckDuckGo, whatever your search engine of choice, or ChatGPT probably could answer it now. Have a look, because tightly integrated, it's crazy. And it was very satisfying to get a big round of applause when it created that dashboard out of nowhere, like.
That's true. Cool. Yeah, and it was a very detailed dashboard, right? It got the units right and all this, and then made it change color, and that's also that the colors were all like nicely done, all in sync was really good. I feel like when I introduced the new themes, this was I think my that didn't go well. That some of the charts are still in the old, they're in the old color scheme, right? So you have all the new fancy poppy colors. But then the charts are still the original gradients. Yeah, I think we need to change that up. Anyway, so maybe we should talk about today's main topic, right, which is hiring with AI. And I think maybe that starts not on the interviews itself, but we're seeing, there's a lot of pressure right now on our hiring team because they are getting just flooded with applications right now. So this is not just sort of 20% more, this is like 100% more. It's just coming in. Wow. And it's just crazy with, and like also you see, at the same time I'm seeing on YouTube and I don't know, Instagram, how people are like, this is how you can like really be super productive on like finding a good job. And I know that on our side, the talent team is just on the receiving end of this automation, right? Where people are just making massive sheets of, and then just automating the crap out of this and just firing in all directions. And sort of really also sprucing up their resumes, right? And so this just produces so much work on the talent team now. And it's it's been really a problem. Like and so we use Greenhouse to manage all the incoming applications. And Greenhouse is like, I don't know, it's nothing really we can do. Like we can put a captcha in place, but that's not it.
Do they need an assistant?
They like Greenhouse itself?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so like our talent people.
AI,
yeah, go ahead.
Can AI detect when it's AI generated?
I mean, I think that's the problem. Like, it's still real people, right? And they just get a lot more productivity and a lot more sort of reach, and can just in a short amount of time and apply for a lot more positions. They do a lot less sort of like a good check if this actually fits, and are just sort of are just sort of mass applying everywhere, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's been a real problem.
I used to do that though when I was younger.
Yeah.
I've done that. Too. It's just another thing.
Did I help?
Well, some people. This is why, like, the cover letters is still a question. Like, do you write a cover letter still when you apply? Do you tune your CV to the job you're trying to go for?
Yeah.
Or not?
Well, I mean, and this is where automation comes in, right? And this can really help. Like, this stuff could read our company values, kind of a cover letter, totally custom. And the problem is then it's also not genuine, right? And then this is what I talked to our people team today, because I also really wanted, like, maybe could we put up more like writing task or something like this? No, but then they just make this happen, and we're on the receiving end, just make more work for us, right? And just read more AI generated crap. I mean, it's probably good crap, like if it's really matched with our values.
Yeah, but it's, and we can't even do that test now where you ask them to draw a hand, because that used to be how you'd do it. You're like, can you draw a hand, please? And then it's like got extra fingers.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
or missing few.
Yeah. No, but they could still be a real person, Usman. They could have just had a terrible accident. Yeah.
Yeah. my bad.
Actually, there are people born. There's a piece of piano music that you can only play if you've got an extra finger on each hand.
That's wild.
So AI would easily be able to play that.
Yeah, and then they're like, okay, you're too good at this.
Yeah. I think using like what we, so before AI we used to like Google and get some information about the company, or maybe just copy the templates of a cover letter, but still we have to explain. But with AI it feels like what David says, like it seems like the person is like maybe way overqualified or already know everything what we are doing, and this is something can be easy to detect, because I feel like if someone says like, hey, for example, hey, I know Grafana, but I do not know everything or what you do, I think that's feel more natural, like, okay, it's more genuine if during the interview, like, I know some stuff but not all. But if someone says like, oh, I know all the stack, so it's like, well, I also don't know all the stack, so how can you know?
Yeah. That's when you're helping them, you realize you're helping them.
I was just going to say, it's like, oh, got to change this prompt. I have to temper my excitement.
Some things you don't know about.
Yeah.
Actually, that is an important thing we've noticed, is sometimes you have to tell it what it doesn't know so that it doesn't try, because it's just so optimistic. It's like, yeah, I'll go and I'll help. Yeah, I can do this. It's really optimistic.
Yeah. No, but it's absolutely wild. And so we're not getting any help from Greenhouse, at least yet. And then on the sourcing side, so when our talent team goes out and sort of looks for people, there's also now this sort of like Cambrian explosion of just people who seem to fit our job description, right? And it's just fake profiles. And like the best way they can tell right now is that the profile is only, I don't know, like 6 months old, and there's like 20 years of work history or something like this. But that's about it, right? Like it still gets shown up. It still gets listed in the search results on LinkedIn. And then what is LinkedIn saying? They're saying, well, if you find those, can you please flag them, right? So they're like outsourcing this to like the global talent teams of, on the recruiting side.
It's a perfect job for AI.
It is.
Steeped in irony, but...
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's sort of like, producing work for itself.
Is there a point where they've got so good they've managed to fool us that we actually think that's so valuable that you can kind of harness the AI in that way and prompt it so well that you have a job? Like you've tricked us so well that we should hire you for that.
So we've had some recruiter screens where it was like, let's say 80% clear that we reached some kind of call center where this was clearly some sort of job searching farm.
Right.
And so people then had probably a multitude of profiles up, and when one of them bid, one of us, then they had to answer that call, that recruiting call, right? And so, it takes people now to detect this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, there are also, I think, state-run in different countries, like groups funded doing this as well, getting jobs in companies like Grafana.
Yep, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. That's definitely an attack vector. Yeah.
So
anyway, that took a dark turn.
A
So
little it's bound to.
yeah. So
So Sarah, let me ask you: do you use AI-assisted tools, or are you just like purist?
Yeah, no, I use Cursor and Copilot and ChatGPT. Um, I think I've
At the
sort
same
of
time?
no, but just like when I don't like one answer, you go to the next one, right, and
Oh, yeah.
try
That's
different things.
That's what I used to do with my parents.
Yeah. Just, can I get $20 now?
Yeah.
How about
No,
you?
you say no, we don't have that currency, and I'm like, all right, I'll ask Dad. Dad, $20? And he's like, no, all we've got is pounds. And I'm like, oh, forget it. Yeah, so
Uh,
apart from that,
no, yeah. I mean, I think, with mixed results, it often doesn't tell me the hardest parts, right? But a lot of the things that used to take forever now do not, right? And that's wonderful. So that's great.
yeah. So would you advocate for saying no AI in interviews, or since it's a skill that is useful, would you let somebody use it in an interview?
I think it's a tricky question, and I don't think that it really makes sense to just be like, no, any AI tool is bad. And I also don't think it's really something we have full control over, right? Like, I don't think we're going to get to a point at some point where I don't know that we're going to, I mean, unless we fly people into a room and lock the door, like, I don't
Yeah.
even know, how would we even know? Um, I think if a friend wanted to use AI and asked me if they should during an interview, I'd, say like, think about what are you trying to get accomplished? Because usually the code you're writing in an interview is not that much code, right? You're not generating a ton of unit tests, which AI might be really good at. You're having to solve a problem. And it might only be like 5 lines of code, but do you know what those 5 lines of code are?
Yeah.
And will it be easier having seen it to read it? And will you be able to explain it to your interviewer? And I think some people, the answer is, yeah, totally. Like, I feel super fluent in this language. I'm going to see an answer and I'm going to be able to tell if it makes sense and addresses the problem. And we're going to have an interesting discussion with me and the interviewer during the process. And for other people, I think they're going to see the code and then they're going to be like, I don't know if this worked or not. I feel nervous reading code while somebody's watching me, and it just trips them up more than if they had taken a slower time to write it themselves and talk through their process a little bit. But obviously, I mean, not obviously. Personally, I don't really care. Like for things like, if you're just using it for adding semicolons or something, I mean, like, great. Like, I don't want to proofread your code either, But yeah, I think it's really tricky for take homes, which we sometimes do, right? So that's really difficult because we used to use the take home, I think, like the code that you have generated as proof that you had read and understood what you had gotten, right? And so now we can't really do that, and we instead have to ask you a lot of questions about what you wrote, which can feel awkward as an interviewer to be like, do you really know what this is? Like, it's hard to ask ask that in a nice way.
Yeah. Oh, it's strange, isn't it? Makes you wonder, like, like what you said about in person. Maybe in person interviews becomes more normalized now, or more common. I mean, Grafana Labs, for anyone that doesn't know, is 100% remote, so everyone's remote. But we do have the in-person onboarding. So there is, because obviously getting together, you really still can't beat that physically be there. Do you think we might have in-person interviews only at some point? Open to the panel.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's still such, because it's also like the recruiting process gets more and more expensive like later on, right? Like then also hiring someone and flying them, or just before hiring someone and also flying them somewhere, just gets really complicated compared to what we do now. So I think even with us trying to figure out if someone is like really relying also on AI to get through the process, I think we still have a lot more, I think, maybe effort that we can do there to kind of sort this out. But yeah, as Sarah was saying, there's really a big difference now already between the live coding challenge, where I think you could do it without the LLM, but you could also do it really well with it, and then also just have that experience together and then talk through like, oh, like this was a good suggestion or this was a bad suggestion. Whereas when you get the take-home result, right, like it doesn't you don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And also, I have a confession to make. Today was the first time I tried Cursor, and I tried it in our take-home challenge. And it took me, like the first thing I asked it, like, can you refactor this to TypeScript, right? And it did it obviously in like 4 seconds. But then, so this is like equivalent to what you were saying, Sarah, also, like, do you just use it to fix the semicolons? It did a lot more. It also also did the refactoring, which is the first step in the challenge, right? So, and at that point, I just also felt quite sort of confident. It's almost like these Waymos now, right? Like the first time you're a bit skeptical, and then once it's like left the block that you started from, you're like, no, this is the way now. I'm just relaxing and letting this thing drive.
Yeah. That's what you got to be careful for. But the Waymo thing is totally. I'm now nervous if there's a human there driving now. I'm like, wait. I don't trust the humans.
But also, like, if we see candidates who like use AI or they take away assignments, like once they submit back, can we identify in a way like, hey, why specifically use this function or this logic? Why you didn't use the other? Is there a way like we can filter and detect like why specifically use this function here?
So it's not. So I mean, so that's still part of the actual interview, right? Like even if you do the take-home exercise, you then go through the code together, right? And so, and this is true for both the live coding challenge and the take-home, is that the coding is just the stage, right? Like this is really just what we want you kind of to go through to then have something to talk about, and then the way we talk about it is really the meat and where you can show your understanding. And I think this is actually where, in my experience that I had today with Cursor, where I was just like happier and happier to accept all these suggestions, the more I felt removed from understanding what this code was doing. And so I think you then, and to the point where then it ran into problems when I asked it to also expand the test coverage. Then it just got into, I don't know, some weird loop where it was trying to use one DOM function and the other just went back and forth and like couldn't really progress. But at that point, I really wanted to jump in, but the code has moved so far that I had lost touch and like I didn't know what it was doing anymore. And I should just go back to management.
It's so interesting. I've had that too. And I think this is it. You get better at prompting it as well. So it becomes a skill that you do up level the more you use it. There are things you can say that get better results. And sometimes I'm very specific and I'll say, don't make any changes. Just explain something to me. And it gets carried away. It'll explain it. And then it's like, oh yeah, so look, I'll just change all the, and then I look and I'm like, yeah, fine. That's probably, that is exactly what I would then do next. But that's not the point. I asked you explicitly not to do that. But they're very eager. But That's true. You can get if you let it run away, then you stop being able to like be really in control of it. And I think that is one of the dangers of it. You have to sort of experience that and then avoid it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you that it's definitively a skill, because in that moment, David, I will have started to use it to understand. So you can ask questions about the code base, and like you said, Matt, but you can you can choose like the agent type, and one of them is like just ask, and he has not the right to use modification tools. And when you ask question, is actually going to be very good at giving you a summary, if not like a diagram of how this thing works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
tip for next time, David. Ask
Yeah, but
it how this thing works.
You're very disciplined with this. I would have just said, try harder.
Oh, I've been yeah, I do that too. I do that too.
Yeah. But have you noticed the more polite you are with it, the better the results? Because this apparently is a real phenomenon.
But really,
Yeah. If you're polite.
you're making
I'm
this
not
up.
buying. Yes.
No. I'm not. I have a theory that most intelligent, like, it's trained on the internet, so really it ought to be horrible. But I think a lot of the intelligent stuff, when it is more polite.
You mean if you ask it like an English person, it goes to its English knowledge base?
Yes, it literally is. The context that you put in is
Yeah.
the weighting of where it then, the probabilities then fall differently.
And it's somehow superior to the rest of the world.
I wasn't saying English. Saying polite.
Did you do you add mate at every end of your point?
I have done that once, and it just ignored it. Yeah, I did do that though. But I did feel like for a minute I was just chatting to a person. This is one time.
Yeah, that's good. Sarah, do you do mostly front-end interviews or back-end, or sort of like total mix?
I think I've done mostly front-end interviews. I think for a long time I was like the only one in the Eastern time zone who could do a JavaScript interview or something. There's a while, so I did a bunch of them. Yeah, I think I think our front end is mostly take-home things, and so I think that there were a couple of like I didn't quite realize that people were using these tools. I think I tried doing it with Cursor in January, and I hadn't used Cursor before. I just like Googled or I think I went on Reddit and I was like, what are people using for these things? And after that, I now use Cursor because I was like, wow, this was really quick. Like, I think we asked people to spend no more than 4 hours on this take home, and I'm a very slow person and managed to get like 2 out of the 4 things we suggest people look at within like 2 minutes or something like that. And I was like, oh wow, okay. It took a lot longer to finish to do all 4, but and then in doing that, I noticed things that I thought were very unusual that I had recognized, like patterns that I had seen in previous interviews, which was kind of wild.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So and people who I was like, yeah, I mean, that was a fine, imperfect but totally fine solution, like, oh no. So that was interesting. And there were things like using emojis, right? Of like, which I thought was like, oh, what a cute human, like what a nice little touch to add a bunch of emojis to your little widget app that we work on. And it's like, that's AI's always add emojis to things. Lots of like over engineering to show off design systems and things, to be like, look, I know how to use the factory pattern or whatever. And it's like, that's great if it makes sense, and you can explain it. And then you get to the interview and you'd be like, oh, this was a cool choice. And they'd be like, what choice? And you're like, oh, well, you called this variable this thing, Yeah,
you called this function the poop emoji. It's a really interesting choice.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was about to ask, like, do you think we should make it more difficult, the take-home assignment?
So that's what I was thinking. Is it time to say, right, you can be AI assisted, but you've got to build a fully functioning app and get it in the App Store? Just raise the bar of what's expected.
Yeah, and get 1,000 users.
You've got to get to the top of Hacker News and get funding.
Yeah,
Something.
no, it's interesting, but honestly, this was my experience today, where this like fact of that you sort of feel that the AI is taken over is definitely a challenge, but ultimately it is around someone else is suggesting code changes, right, and kind of reviewing those. I think that might be the way forward. We just haven't found a good format around this, where it's not actually solving the problem anymore, but it's about like, if this thing is suggesting us, like, why are these all good ideas, or are these good ideas, right? And so for me, that's one possible approach.
I mean, also,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I actually just wanted to say what Sarah said, like she found this pattern that, oh, why everyone is so, maybe a good use of AI will be like, okay, you can use it for learning, but maybe you are not using it the right way. So what we can also do is that we can examine all these takeaway assignments and ask AI if it's intelligent enough to recognize some matching patterns or same tradition of line of codes or functions, which like looks like very, very fishy or very regular in every other exercises. So that could be a good use of AI.
Yeah, there are cases where they are doing that. They're using it to, and the companies that have essentially that they're training AIs to be able to detect fake stuff or AI generated stuff. But it's going to be like a constant battle that's going to continually rage on. Do interviews need to sort of fundamentally change? Do we have to do something different for interviews now?
I mean, I would say no. Cyril?
I was wondering, like, should we maybe try to judge if someone knows how to use LLM during interviews, like how to use AI assisted tools? Like, if someone says like, yeah, I use it every day, maybe we can try to judge how well you use it. Like, try to ask about which model should be using in that situation, which I don't know what would be the answer, because I always randomly use any model.
Yeah, but that's it. Could the interviews could that be part of it? It's like, it is a skill, but it's not easy to it's not just like, in some cases it just gives you the answers, but to actually use it properly, you really are part of that mix. So I feel like you could have that on a remote thing where you were just discussing it and you see what's happening. It doesn't work for the takeaway, I suppose.
So the skill you will be testing is making sure that the interviewee is not losing touch with the code base, right? Like David will have failed that test.
Well, that's only his first time. What do you think, Ben?
But I made it. So I made it look, because there is like an extension of the coding test where you show the items, and it when I asked it to do this, it like imported Bootstrap and all this, and then I asked it to make it look Swedish, and I think it did a pretty good job. Like, it just sort of...
You asked it to what? Make it look Swedish?
Yeah. So it made it look like, styled it blue and yellow, because, we're got Swedish roots, so...
Yeah. And normally in the interviews, people have to make it look Swedish manually, don't they? But you can do it now in 2 minutes with an AI.
Well, so some variations of our front-end interview have a live coding part, so kind of like, depending on how far they get. I don't know if you ever do this, Sarah, but we asked them to do tweaks on the solution that they submitted.
Right.
Yeah, I think that sort of has to be mandatory now to some degree, right? Because it's sort of like, I think we can be like a little bit more open-ended about how something looks or where we go with it. But I think you kind of have to at least pseudocode something at the very least, right? If not, extend it, which I think is pretty doable.
But is it valid for someone to do that in a live coding interview, to just use Cursor, right, and ask it to do what you've asked them to do? Would you say that's valid? It seems like that is valid, really. Like,
I think so.
Our job as engineers isn't to write code; it's to solve problems. And if the way to do that is by using a different tool, then that's fine.
It'd be fun if the interviewer is like, can you just repeat? And you see him typing exactly what you're saying.
I think the tough thing.
Right.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think that the tough part for me is not that people are using AI. It's for people who tend to be a little bit more reserved and who don't talk through their thinking as much. And I think previously we could just sort of see them code, right? And so, okay, maybe this person doesn't talk a lot, but they do answer questions and they're clear. And we would say, okay, like, you know, they're a little shy, maybe they're a little nervous. And that's, you know, that's okay. We don't need everyone to be on a live call, right? You know, we're happy to just have people who are great coders and who can very quietly and communicate their thoughts with documentation, with just talking to people they're comfortable with. And now I think if you're somebody who feels very comfortable sort of reading aloud what an AI generated and saying, what does that mean? Oh, I see what they're saying. You know, like you can talk through your thoughts very well, then I have no problem if you use AI because I can understand what you're thinking and together we can collaborate. And the problem I have is for people who are more reserved, I really don't want to penalize them because they're not somebody who speaks out loud as they think, right? That's people process information differently. But if they don't, I really have no idea if they're just like running it, just like asking another side panel somewhere on their screen, you know, what should I say to this interviewer right now, waiting for it to process.
Yeah.
I think it's really worth like underlining like why this is important, right? Like we're remote first company or remote only, and sort of collaborating and explaining sort of our approach to the solution that we're building is very important. Because we can't just go over to someone else's desk and sort of look at that, how they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is why a lot of people get hired through open source, is because you have that experience of working with people, and that's why that is a very it's a big shortcut, frankly. So that's my always my advice to people when they say, "How should I get into stuff? Like, what should I start doing?" It's always like, get stuck in with open source things, build it, join teams, basically remote teams is what they are, and Grafana is kind of that model, really, but as a company.
I guess that's like the ultimate question. Like, should we just hire from the community as opposed to?
Right. It's definitely a big time saver, but these tools are changing also all the time. Like Sarah, you mentioned you hadn't even used it, and then afterwards you noticed some people maybe were using it and given similar patterns that you're recognizing. That'll keep happening too, right? There's different technologies. I mean, every day, almost every week at least, there's something new. Space is changing so fast. So whatever we do with interviewing, we're going to have to be a bit flexible, I think, with that. It's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. Yeah, but to fully answer Ben's question, I think if someone wants to use this tool, like we absolutely should allow it, but it should be also visible to us, right? And then you can vibe code together.
Yeah, transparency is the thing, right? Like, if someone's trying to mislead you by saying they've written some code manually when they haven't, or when they don't understand it, that's no good.
That's a red flag immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bigger problem with written things than interactive things. It occasionally is a problem in an interview, but it's so easy to just produce code nowadays. Like, you can do it with no skills whatsoever. You just need to tell it to make some code, and it will do it. It's not a good measure anymore.
Right. That's what I mean. The measure's changed, I think.
Yeah.
This is why, like, I've read a thing about essentially engineers are now thinking more product-y because there's less time sort of on the actual coding. They actually have more capacity now to think about, right, what does this product need to do? What problems do I need to solve? And a bit more capacity and stuff. So that's quite encouraging because I always think that's a healthy thing for everyone to do anyway.
I mean, after my cursor escapade today, I thought we're all doomed as like not like as programmers. Not that we're being replaced, but more that we're sort of get inundated with just a lot of generated code that we have to troubleshoot. Because I feel like that'll be our future.
Yeah, but AI reviewers are also a thing now. I use Copilot in GitHub. It's built in to do reviews, or review a PR, and it comes back with some really useful stuff. It really does. And we aren't even customizing it yet for our own purposes. Cursor has rules. Cyril, you've played around with these, and I've played a bit, but we don't yet have like a set of rules for the repo that just describe like these are the patterns we follow, this is what we prefer, like don't build abstractions if you don't need to, keep it flat, these sorts of like engineering decisions. As we start to build that stuff in, I think at the moment it's kind of inferred by looking at other code that's similar, but I think it's just all good stuff. So it's certainly like wouldn't want an interview process to discourage its use. Yeah, I'm kind of with Ben on like the code really isn't the point. The point is the problems you've been able to solve with code. But we can't just be chaos. Just let anyone do anything.
Exactly.
Code. Yeah.
Ben, we also have you here to talk about the Grafana MCP server, right?
Yeah, we do. This has really
What is
taken
it?
off recently. Yeah.
Yeah. What is MCP?
That's a good question. A good starting question. So MCP is a protocol that was released by Anthropic last autumn or winter, so 2024. And it's basically, I think it's kind of a solution to the M by N problem, where you have like M models over here and N clients, LLM-based applications, right? And they all want to use tools, and they all want to like provide resources to each other. So you may have your Postgres server, which has a bunch of tables, and you have your Grafana instance, which has lots of dashboards. And you want to be able, your application wants to be able to, you want to provide any of these AI applications like Cursor or Zed or Claude with access to all of these things, but you don't want to make M times N different combinations of things. So MCP is a way of standardizing the way that these types of applications talk to your various sort of services like Grafana, Postgres, various different things, GitHub. So what it lets you do when you're an MCP server author is write tools which can then be consumed by LLM-powered applications. And the applications don't need to know which servers are installed or what the tools do. They don't need to know anything about them. All they do is offer them as a list of tools to the model, and then the model can just use whatever it thinks is best. And that allows the user to like configure lots of different MCP servers depending on their use case. So if you're using Cursor to work on a backend application, you may plug in your GitHub MCP server, your Postgres MCP server, your Grafana MCP server, and ask it to add observability to my database queries. And your agent will go away and look for your database schemas from Postgres. It'll look for your metric names and like all your different configuration from Grafana, and then it will add those things in and maybe create a GitHub issue or create a GitHub pull request for you using those 3 MCP servers. And all without Cursor having to know anything to do this. And you could also do it with Claude Code or with anything else that uses an MCP server. Sorry, that was quite long.
So this, no, I think this is great. And this MCP server is, I believe, also like free to use. It is available in Grafana OSS.
That's right. Yeah. So it's a standalone open source project that we've released. We released it after our hackathon last December, and open sourced it earlier this year. And it seems to be getting quite a lot of usage. We've had some community contributions. People are adding various different tools to it. So at the minute, it can do things like query Prometheus, query Loki, load your dashboards, update dashboards for you. It can figure out which data sources to use, which Prometheus metrics, and it can do things like listing alert rules. There's loads of different functionality in there, and it kind of lets you have like an observability agent in Cursor or in Claude, so you can ask them to debug this issue for you, and it'll try and go away and run a bunch of queries.
I have a question for you, Ben. Can you, when you use the MCP server from Grafana, can you select the tools that you want to use only if there's like a long list of tools? And I wonder, like, how does it know
Yeah.
which tool it should be using to?
Yeah, so you can filter the list of tools down by category at least. So we categorize our tools in our MCP server like by searching or by querying or using Prometheus ones. So when you start the MCP server up, you can say, I only want these categories because I don't use Loki or I don't use dashboards or whatever. You wouldn't use dashboards. But then it's up to the model to like, it knows what tools it's got, and it's up to the model to choose the right ones, really. There's a list, I guess there's this interesting question of like, what happens if you have 30 MCP servers and 10 tools each? You then got like 300 tools for the model to figure out. And I think models are getting better at that. A couple of years ago, they were useless and they would never use tools, and they would struggle if they had more than one or two available. Nowadays, you can get by with a lot more, but it's this balancing act of not overwhelming the model with too much choice.
Yeah, because each tool comes with a description as well, doesn't it? So it's like a prompt about when best to use that tool. Yeah. And so you are kind of then influencing it. And this is something that we're very careful with the assistant project is if we just put loads of capabilities in there, it might just get confused. It might just have too many things it can do. Model Context Protocol, by the way, MCP. For anyone that hasn't searched it yet on DuckDuckGo or whichever search engine is your favorite, or LLM'd it. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Can you change the description, or you have to take the description from the server? Like,
it's provided by the server. Yeah, I mean, I guess as the application, if you were say you were developing, Cyril, hypothetically, an LLM powered application, you can do what you like, right? Because the way you would use MCP servers is you would query for all of the tools from those MCP servers, and it provides you with like a list, and then you can just change those strings if you want. You probably meant to treat it like a static list, or I guess it's a dynamic list, but like you don't know what any of that is. It's kind of opaque to you.
I guess that's another use case for MCP, right? Like people can build on it. It's not just for using with like Cloud Desktop and other tools, but you can also build on it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's other things that it can do as well, not just providing tools. It can also provide prompts. So if you have some useful tasks that you know what the sort of prompts that work well for solving specific problems, you can provide pre-canned prompts that will be used, that the user can select. You can even do things from within an MCP server. You could make a call back to the client to ask the LLM how to solve a problem for a tool. So if say your tool is like query Prometheus, and someone just says, ask me, I don't know, solve this problem for me. The query Prometheus tool could then go back to the LLM client and say, please ask the LLM how I should solve this problem by querying Prometheus, and it might spit back a query for you to then use. Like, it goes both ways. It's kind of cool.
It is cool. I was surprised to find out that they're like binaries that run a lot like on your machine, aren't they?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways of running MCP servers. The sort of beginning one that everyone is using right now is, like you say, is you run them locally on your machine, and they communicate. So the application cursor or whatever communicates using standard input and standard output with the MCP server process, and they all just run in sub-processes. So it's kind of like running unsecured code on your computer, which is a bit scary. But MCP has this like decoupling that they use called transports, and the standard input transport is the default one that everyone's using now. But there's also like HTTP-based transports. So you could host an MCP server somewhere, and anyone can just connect to it using HTTP, as long as they have the right kind of auth and all of that stuff figured out. so you don't have to run it locally.
Right.
Thankfully. But you probably will if you're using it nowadays.
Yeah, the HTTP one makes sense. That's what I assumed it was.
Yeah.
In the beginning, but it makes sense because it's about integrating, isn't it? It's about integrating into whatever disk file system, or because that's the thing.
Yeah.
There's a big difference as it's integrated. This is what Cyril was saying earlier, and we noticed this with Cursor and Warp and these kinds of tools. It's the tight integration and how well that's done that makes a big impact on productivity, not just having the LLM there. You know, so yeah, I think
100% agree.
Yeah. It's good though, isn't it?
I think Cyril is coding right now. I think he's accepting. I just hear him click and
He's just
accept all
accepting
these.
cursors.
I am sorry. You can hear my click.
You can do a Grafana Campfire live and
Yeah.
be coding at the same time.
Yeah, I was accepting everything. So.
Well, I have to inform you guys, like we are already a bit ahead of time, like 1 minute ahead, because there's other community call scheduled after this one. So we have to say bye for now. But I think, or is there anything someone wants to share an important topic before we close? Or something we missed to inform the audience?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I'm
try our
excited about next month where the Grafana department has its offsite. We haven't had this in a long time, and also bringing everyone together, which is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, we'll
And
see
then we
which
should
of us
be
are
back.
just AI and which
Yes.
ones are real. By the way, do we think we've hired anyone? Have we been tricked yet? Do we know? Do we know? Has AI tricked us yet in the hiring process?
So people have definitely arrived in later rounds where it was a bit weird, and that definitely got caught out, and so a lot of it was just being very slow to answer, where it was clear they were running that question through something else.
Right.
And then when they gave the answer, it felt like they were reading from a screen. Yeah. So you got to be better than that.
Got to be better than that, yeah. But I'm just wondering if anyone is better than that and they're in.
Yeah. I mean, they might hold 5 jobs at the same time, like Cyril does.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
Cool.
Usman, I don't want to make you late for these other community calls.
No, all good. No, yeah, we have like this schedule defined in the community calendar, so I don't want folks to just still wait here or those wait for us. So yeah, but I think we learned a lot. I think we had a very interesting talk about like the usage of AI, both the good side and the dark side, and there's much to improve even on both sides, I would say, to keep the battle going on. But and the second is like, definitely check the Grafana MCP server. It's something new, but looks very exciting. I'm actually trying to learn it. It's something in my not in my OKR, but in my wish list. So that's all for this community call for today. We will join all of you next month. So till then, take care. Bye bye, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you next month.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.